Hi, welcome to Rally Point. This is our monthly series where we highlight veteran service organizations, veterans, their stories of service and sacrifice. And we are bringing this to you through great sponsorship through the Central Ohio Ford dealers. Today, in honor of Black History Month, we've got a great organization and representatives from Triple Nikel. It's a veteran-owned small business. It draws its inspiration and heritage from an Army all-black infantry, parachute infantry regiment. And the founders, Ruben Ayala and McPhee, are going to tell us about their service as veterans in the military, as well as the inspiration that they drew from the Triple Nikel 555th Parachute Infantry Regiment to create a great retail company, Triple Nikel. So without any further ado, I just want to introduce Chris and Ruben and get to understand your story, the inspiration that you drew from the Parachute Infantry Regiment, and why you created this retail company.
Yeah.
So thank you. So Ruben, if you can kick us off as the founder, tell us a little bit about yourself and your military service, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. So a little bit about me. The most interesting parts is I'm from Puerto Rico, so that's where I was born and raised. Mm-hmm. And English is my second language. My mother, she joined the Army to get us out of the island. So, we like to say we immigrated to the United States. That's what it felt like.
Right.
And nobody spoke English. And she ended up spending 20 years in the Army as a lab tech. And being born in Puerto Rico, coming to the United States, just seeing a different culture, then seeing a different culture as an Army brat, that kind of prepped me for service. So I went in, enlisted, then became an officer. I was an infantry officer. Then, like we like to say, went to the dark side and became a special forces officer. And I spent most of my time in the 7th group, spent a little bit of time in 10th group. And upon getting out, I started a business. I went back to school, and as I melted back into the civilian life, I knew I wanted to do something for myself, and went to school and went into the entrepreneurial path.
That's great. Chris, over to you. Tell us a little bit about your military service and background.
Definitely, thank you. Thanks for having us here. Well, my story starts in Miami, Florida, is where I grew up.
Okay.
And surprisingly, I only had one uncle who served during the military, so the military wasn't something that I was like, you know what, when I get older, I want to do this. Mm-hmm. For me, it was just something I could see myself getting into and starting a career and moving on out of Miami, Florida into a college of some sort to further my education. So I joined the military in '94, ended up at Fort Bragg, and got into a Special Forces brief. As an admin soldier, it was different. I was intrigued by it, and after 4 months of being in the 82nd is where I believe that's where my career started. Mm-hmm. So I went to selection, was selected in the 3rd Special Forces group, deployed to GWAT several times, and a lot of ups and downs over those years, mm-hmm. but eventually I retired in 2017.
So you guys get linked up and you decide to create this company, Triple Nikel. And like I mentioned, you drew inspiration from the 555th Parachute Infantry Regiment. Can you tell us what that connection is for the company and the Parachute Infantry Regiment?
Yeah, and I like telling the story, so I appreciate you asking. So in 2020, we go into the pandemic, mm-hmm. and the world stops. So when the world stops and everybody's at home with their kids, I would say probably the bulk of us are on the internet, just seeing what's going on, and just touching base with old buddies, seeing what's going on in the retail space. Everybody's shopping on Amazon, and for me, no different than everybody else. But what I was seeing in the retail space, specifically for veterans, was a lot of the reverberations of what's going on in the country. Mm-hmm. And what I saw was a gap where there were certain communities, particularly in the minority sector, that weren't being addressed or identified or even represented in these companies. And I thought it was wrong, mm-hmm. And instead of just complaining about it, I decided to do something about it. And I said, well, I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I own my own company. I think I can start an apparel company. That's what most veterans seem to do. So I just got on the phone and started calling a bunch of buddies and trying to vet the idea. And why Triple Nickel? I've always been intrigued by the story of the 555th. So going into the 82nd as a young infantry second lieutenant, here I am, I'm half black, half white. So I see both sides of the fence. And I have a lot of empathy towards our service members who served during that time period of segregation. And when I came into the 82nd, a lot of these guys were still alive. Mm-hmm. So we would go to the association meetings and get a chance to talk to them and listen to their stories. And that always stuck with me. If I was alive during that period, would I be able to persevere like they did and go forward and do the things that they volunteered to do? I don't know, but I've always admired those men for what they did. So of Triple Nickel, our common ground was the 82nd. We all started there. Mm-hmm. So Triple Nickel just came screaming to me, like, this is what we need to call the company. We need to tie a good story element to this, something that we can educate people on and not just sell clothing. Mm-hmm. We need to have a story component to this that's going to inspire some little kid somewhere that may want to become a special forces guy, but they don't see special forces guys that look like us. Mm-hmm. Or, guess what? We can all swim really well. So these are things that we wanted to dispel, mm-hmm. and that's why we named it Triple Nickel.
So just from the historical perspective, Triple Nickel, 555th Parachute Infantry Regiment, it's an all-black regiment formed in World War II, and I don't think they saw combat in World War II.
They were not allowed.
Right.
And the closest thing they saw to combat was during Operation Firefly. Mm-hmm. So in 1945, the Japanese would deploy balloon bombs on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And in Oval, Oregon, these balloon bombs would create these forest fires. So it was recently declassified. I don't know the exact date that it was declassified, but Operation Firefly, they flew the regiment mm-hmm. over the fires, and they fought the forest fires, and that's probably the closest they came to combat.
So you guys both have common experiences in the 82nd. I've served in the Ranger Regiment and the 173rd Airborne Brigade, so we've all got great airborne stories. Do either of you have a good airborne story you want to share?
You go first.
Yeah, we was thinking about that, the airborne stories. The best airborne story. I think that for me, the best airborne story is that the 82nd, just being there in that unit, being in the division, helped set the standard for me. Mm-hmm. For the future. So I didn't spend much time there. I only spent 12 months there. Okay. Because I came to the 82nd and fell in love with another option to go on to another unit in Special Forces. And that's what I remember the best, because I got a lot of support from my platoon sergeants and the people that were there in command and helping me get ready to take on this journey. And it was like, hey, you're just an admin guy. This is not going to be for you or whatever, but that's what I can remember the best, is the support and that I received from all the leaders there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Ruben?
Yeah, Chris and I were talking about this last night, and I recall the story. I got the opportunity to go to the Belgium Commando course. Mm-hmm. So we were in Belgium, and after the course, they gave us the opportunity to go site. It was the Battle of Bastogne. Mm-hmm. And we were in uniform, and the townspeople came out, and they had a memorial and a monument dedicated to Third Army. And the people came out, the older generation from World War II, and they were just enthralled by the uniform, the headgear. They recognized the 82nd Airborne patch, yep. And they were so thankful for us being there. And for me, that was eye-opening to say, wow, I belong to an organization that impacted somebody, back in the 1940s. Mm-hmm. And 40, 50 years later, they're still thankful for what we did.
Right.
And to me, that was pretty awesome and powerful.
Yeah.
Always remember that.
Very impactful. So legacy, community, music, and love. That's tied to the organization, the apparel company. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. And feel free to chime in on what I missed. So we had to look at this from two perspectives. As a business owner, you want to start a business and you got to differentiate yourself from everybody else. So in the veteran space, in the retail market segment, there is a lot of clothing companies.
Yeah.
And one thing that is extremely common theme throughout all of them is a spirit of a revolutionary America. 1776, do not tread on me, these types of themes that make America what it is. We know that we couldn't do that because it's already being done. So it's going to make us another voice in that crowded space. And for us, again, one of the things we had in common outside of just being an 82nd was we love music. For us, we love hip hop. So we wanted to take the theme of music. I think most people can sit down and they can agree Bob Marley's music is awesome. Or if you like country music, George Strait is awesome. And that is something that we didn't see a lot of is what can we build unity around? That's something that everybody can agree on. Because not everybody may agree that don't tread on me is an impactful type of thing. I don't know. But that's the approach that we wanted to take. How do we best represent all communities? How do we speak in a language that everybody can sit down at the table and at least agree on a few things and not polarize? And that was our approach to Triple Nikel. Anything you want to add to that?
Definitely, I would add to that. Our focus was we're going to go the opposite direction instead of bringing, hard energy to get people agitated and angry with each other. We're going to take the community approach and bring everybody together. And at that time, that's what we needed. That's what our country needed, and so that's what we did.
Absolutely. Yeah, we accomplish so much more together than we do as an individual. There's an African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yes.
So
That's exactly it.
You called yourself an entrepreneur. We like to use the term veterapreneur here at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum because you're a veteran entrepreneur. So you said you reached out to a bunch of folks and started picking their brains. What lessons did you get from some of the people that you interacted with? And then what would be one lesson each of you could share with somebody who might be interested in entering this space?
Sure. Out of all the phone calls that I made, and I actually took a road trip that summer, going to people's houses from San Antonio all the way to Virginia, believe it or not, and bouncing ideas off. The one thing that was common to all was be authentic. So no matter what you do, just make sure that you remain who you are. And that's always stuck with us in all of the decisions that we make is, are we being true to ourselves? And for somebody looking to get into this space, I would say do not be afraid to work with others and not go at it alone. Just time back into the African proverb.
Yeah.
Chris?
No, that is, for me, during that time before I met Ruben, I had no aspirations to start now. I see us coming from our pedigree, it's all about the team. And so I said, yes, let's do this, but I would tell everybody, if you're trying to go into entrepreneurship, either you have to have a strong team with you, and that's how we have gotten here. He couldn't do it by himself. Even though he had the idea, he needed myself and Kurt and Rod to get Triple Nikel to where it is today. So that's the most important thing I could add is build a team, get people you trust, and you have to trust each other.
Yep.
And surprisingly, we didn't know each other from the start. I knew Kurt Rod knew Ruben, and we had to learn each other, and we had to be open. Sometimes we were closed, but at the end of the day, because of the vision and because of our core values of teamwork and working together, and we knew that that's what we needed to do to make it happen. That's why we're here.
How much, so just, I guess, to delve into that a little bit more, how much team building did you have to do since you were a startup? Like you said, you didn't really know each other, or just one or two of you knew one another, but you're going all in on this idea to build this retail company. So how much team building did you have to do to get to where you are now?
This is a good question, and I may surprise you with this answer, but to give you an idea of how fast we move, the concept hit me in July, June or July of 2020, and I wanted to launch this in November, just in time for Veterans Day, and I just met Chris, I want to say in June maybe. Rod was my team sergeant when I was an A-team commander, so I knew him. I didn't know Curtez, and we wanted to launch this thing in like 60 days. So there was no team building. I would say the team building aspect came from our experience in the military.
Okay.
So Chris, coming from 3rd Group across the street, we knew a lot of the same people, and it's as simple as calling somebody and say, hey, tell me a little bit about Chris McPhee, he's solid. Tell me a little bit about Ruben, he's solid. Tell me a little bit about Rod, he's solid. And it's taken the word from our brothers in the SF community that these guys were vetted, and we ran with it. And then with Curtez, taking Chris's word for it, that he was solid in everything that he built with the Military Influencer Conference. So there was no team building. It was a lot of, everybody came together. We created, I gave task and purpose. We created a plan. There's triple leading procedures. We initiated movement. And everything was a frag one route. That's the best way to put it.
Movement to contact.
Yeah. I would say just recently we've had the opportunity to really sit down and do that team building after the fact and establish a patrol base, speaking in military terms, and start really improving our fighting positions, figuring out what the next steps are. I don't recommend that everybody do this. Not everybody can do this. The only reason we were able to do this is because Chris had a business prior to, so he had that acumen. I had a business before this, and I had that acumen. So did Curtez, and so did Rod. So to do it that quick with people that you don't know, it's not something I would recommend for a brand new entrepreneur.
Right.
You got to cut your teeth in some things, and then obviously our backgrounds in special forces, super helpful because we go through so much. And we do a lot of things naively, anyways.
Yeah,
because we think we're superhuman, right? So it was something that it can't be replicated again. It was it just happened organically.
Right.
So I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah,
pretty
definitely.
Well, I give you a different perspective.
Okay.
So he gave you more of the spiritual. When we say team building, we're talking about togetherness and trust, but we actually did it in a physical sense because we reached out with each of our networks and was like, where are our gaps? Who do we know that knows how to do this? Who do you have access to? So I reached out to everybody that I knew, and this person here is a guru at marketing. This person here could help us with communication. This person here could help us with production. So in a sense, and that was even hard because those folks that we brought to the table didn't know each other, so we had to manage that and then also manage ourselves. So we built a team, but it was like not in the spiritual sense what everybody thinks, like team building, cohesion and camaraderie and all that stuff.
Right.
We just relied on the people we're bringing to the table. We asked hard questions. We were direct with each other. When we didn't like something, we said it. If it didn't make sense at the time, we asked people to explain themselves. So it was a very, no margin for BS, I would say, along the way, because we were focused on the vision and the mission.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you experienced challenges as a minority-owned small business? Above and beyond, you're just starting, your startup, your veteran-owned business, pandemic.
Yeah.
You've got a short runway that you're taking off on. Anything above and beyond as a minority-owned business?
I say, quick answer, no. The biggest challenge, and I mentioned it a little bit, is how do you take 4 guys, A-type personalities, during the pandemic, everybody's hurting, come into a market as fast as possible, make the biggest impact with little money in a short period of time when everything's shut down, and do it well. Mm-hmm. That's been the biggest hurdle, and that obviously has nothing to do with race or ethnicity. And what we've experienced since that has been nothing but love, and that to me is a testament to what we saw in the market. So the gap was there, and I think it was the right call. Mm-hmm. I think if we would have had experienced some issues, I think that probably our gut assessment on what was happening probably was off azimuth somewhere.
Okay.
So I think that would be my best assessment on that.
Okay.
I would say so. We've talked about this before when we've been asked that question, and to us, we don't look at it as whether we're a minority-owned business or not. Mm-hmm. We're business owners. Yeah. And we're trying to launch during a period where even the big boys are hurting, who've been doing this for 10, 20 years, they're having problems. So for us, it was just trying to put together the best team and make sure every decision we were making was like right on point, because we had no room if we went left or right. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't work, and we didn't have the time. So it was like, back to reliability, accountability. Yeah. Like we were relying on a lot of people to be accountable and do what they say they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And that's where it ended for us.
Okay, great. So what's the biggest thing y'all are working on right now? Kind of the day-to-day for Triple Nikel.
Well, for right now, the biggest thing is the All in Cash Foundation. Mm-hmm. Just keeping on that thread, because there's a lot of business things that we're doing that are great, but when it comes to leaving a legacy, to me, that's something I'm really proud of. Mm-hmm. We've been in business for 2 years, but we're in a position to where we can help a Gold Star family achieve a dream of theirs, mm-hmm. and bring it to a national spotlight. There's literally thousands of people wearing this shirt across America. Yeah. And it's been picked up by Kohl's.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
So in 600 stores nationwide, you can go and you can buy a Cash shirt, mm-hmm. and read about his story. And we've been able to do that. And again, 10 minutes ago, you asked the question, what is our biggest hurdle? You got 4 guys who never made clothing, and we're trying to do this in a pandemic and do it in a way where we're doing it well and beat any competition that may be out there. Mm-hmm. Totally imaginary in our minds, but there's somebody out there with the same idea, so we got to rush to market. And 2 years later, we're helping a Gold Star family, mm-hmm. create a nonprofit foundation. We have thousands of people that know his legacy now. Mm-hmm. And to me, I'm extremely proud of that. And that is a huge undertaking, because I never created a nonprofit before. But we're about 5 months away from it being stood up. So 2023, the Sergeant First Class All in Cash Foundation will be stood up, and to say that we were a part of that is awesome.
That's a big deal. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
So where do you see yourselves here in about 5 years?
Go for it, Chris.
5 years. Ooh.
Yeah.
But right now we're looking. The goal is for us to be just most distribution apparel brand nationwide. Okay. So that is the goal in 5 years, for us to be Triple Nikel, to be everywhere. Everybody's wearing Triple Nikel, and that is the goal for us in the next 5 years. Also, along the things that we have in works now is the Arnold Cash Foundation, and then also we're looking at starting our own foundation.
Yeah.
That's one of the big goals.
Okay, great.
Yeah, he's spot on what he stated. Triple Nikel is the most distributed, veteran-owned apparel brand nationwide. 5 years, that's where we want to be.
Okay,
And yeah, that's it.
great.
Would love that.
So we're here to highlight Triple Nickel for Black History Month. What does Black History Month mean to both of you?
For me, Black History, it signifies so much more than what we see during February 1st to the 28th. It's so much more than Martin Luther King, so much more than, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, the Tuskegee Airmen. Coming from Puerto Rico and Latin America, where the slave trade began, in the Caribbean, there's so much history. And I'm so proud of coming from that culture that I want to share so much of that part of me. So anytime we get the opportunity in our platform, that's why culture and community is so important to us, and not just Black history, but other people's history. So that's why it's in Triple Nickel we try to include community so much, because we come from a culture that's so rich. So for us to have a month dedicated to that is awesome, and we try our best to bring to light something different. So for this year, Owen Cash is the forefront of what we are marketing, to continue to amplify his story. But also for us, it's the 50th anniversary of hip hop in 2023. And that's Black history. And
Okay.
For us, those are the things that are awesome, because it's not divisive. These are things that everybody hears every day. So that, to me, that's the special part about Black history. So much rich history.
Okay.
For me, for Black history, is not more so of retelling those stories of the past. Yes, we need to learn from them, but it's more about the active now Black history that's in the making, like what we're doing here with the Arnold Cash Foundation. And what we're trying to do as a minority-owned company is to inspire other communities, our younger generation, so we could just continue to do that community building and move forward. So that's what, every year, we get here in the month of February and it's like, whew, but essentially all year long is just what we're thinking about, and that's what Black history means to me, not just February, but every month I'm looking forward to bringing something else, and so how we can inspire the community.
We're almost at time, but do either of you or both of you have any closing comments you'd like to share about anything?
Yeah, for me, for those watching, if you're not familiar with Triple Nickel, familiar with our story, outside of what you've heard today, I would love for you just to hop on our Facebook, our Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, or even our website, and shoot us a message. There's always somebody that'll reach out to you and answer whatever question you may have.
Okay.
And I would like to add and just let everybody know, if you have a story to tell that you want to introduce to us, feel free.
Okay.
It's not about just you getting something from us. We want something from you. So if you're looking for somewhere to share your story and you want to be heard, come here. We'll share it for you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. All right, that gets us to the conclusion of Rally Point here in February of 2023. We've got a couple of announcements. So on the 10th of February, we've got a veterans photography class with Jason Myers. On the 14th of February, our inspiring story of service is with Serbinia Davis. 18th of February is Century Saturday. The 20th is President's Day with special admission rates for the museum. And then on the 26th of February, to close out the month, we've got NVMM Reads celebrates Black History Month with a live panel discussion with William and Donna Birch, WG. So we've got some exciting things going on this month and in the spring. So go to nationalvmm.org, programs and events, and learn more about everything going on this month and through the spring. Thanks for joining us.